Om Shri Sai Ram. So dear children, a hearty Sai Ram to all of you. Welcome to the second session of this particular lesson, the advent of Europeans to India. In the first session, we discussed about different factors which led to the Europeans to come to India, and also we had given you an assignment. So first let us discuss about the assignments. So complete the following blanks with suitable answers. Here in the 1453, the Ottoman Turks captured the city of Dash, we had given, it was Constantinople, which was called as the trade way to Europe. The Portuguese traveller who discovered the sea route between Europe and India was the Vasco da Gama, who reached here, India, 1458. Then answer in 5 to 6 sentences. How did trade take place between India and Europe during the Middle Ages? As already we discussed in the Middle Ages, the Arab merchants carried Asian merchandise or the goods into Constantinople, that is the Eastern Roman Empire. Then Italian merchants would buy these goods and sell in European markets. They had the monopoly. Then there was a great demand for Indian spices like pepper, cardamom, ginger and many other spices in Europe. Already we discussed that they had religious importance, medicinal importance. It was a luxury. And in this way, Constantinople was the center of international business and considered as the gateway of European trade. While Arab merchants had gained a monopoly over the trade in Europe, the merchandise from Asia had brought good profits to the Italian merchants. So this was about the assignments given to you. So in the previous chapter, previous session, we discussed different issues about the Portuguese. Now we come to the English, how the English came to India, how they established their rule here. So in the year 1615, Sir Thomas Roe arrived at the court of Jahangir, who was the Mughal emperor, as the royal ambassador from the court of King James, who was the king of England, James I, the king of England. You can see here Thomas Roe coming and meeting Jahangir and requesting for the trade licenses or permission, because that point of time India, majority of the country was controlled by the Mughals, and it was necessary to take their permission. So with the permission of Mughal Emperor Jahangir, the English East India Company took permission and established factories in different places of the Mughal Empire. So example, they started factory in Agra, that is in Uttar Pradesh, Ahmedabad and Bharuch, which is in Gujarat. These areas they established their factories. 1639, English took Madras from King of Chandragiri and established a strong fort named St. George Fort. So they had 3 presidencies or areas. One was Calcutta, today what is called as Kolkata. Another was Madras, today called as Chennai. And there was Bombay or Mumbai. In these 3 areas, they had their own control. And so St. George Fort was the name given to the Madras area. Charles II, the Prince of England, gave Bombay an annual rent of 10,000 pounds a year to East India Company in 1668. So you know that British, they calculate in terms of pounds. Now, Fort William at Calcutta, in 1690, 3 villages were purchased by the English, namely Sutanauti, Kalikata and Govindapura on the banks of river Hooghly, and a fort was built. It was called as Fort William. So here you can see this particular Hooghly river and these areas Chitrapur, Sutanauti, Kalikata, Govindapur, and on this particular area this city of Kolkata grew. The city of Calcutta grew under this fort. By 17th century, the English had established Bombay and Madras. So 3 presidencies or areas. One was Calcutta, and there was Bombay, and there was Madras. By the later part of the 18th century, the English made Calcutta as their capital city. Before New Delhi, the first capital established was Calcutta. They implemented their own civil and criminal procedures in the areas that were under their control. So they had built their own forts, and though they were in India, still whatever was there in the forts, they implemented their own civil and criminal procedures. Means those who were living in that fort area, they had different rules compared to the other parts of India. The British had established their own civil and criminal procedures, codes or rules. So this is the area. So as I told you, Chitpur, Sutanauti, Kalikata, Gobindpur on the banks of river Hooghly, and here was the Saint William, Fort William was established. So you can see here different foreign settlements in India at the end of the 17th century. So here P indicates Portuguese, the D indicates Dutch, B British, F French, and D Danish. So you can see here different areas. Example, Diu was under the control of Portuguese, Bombay, the British, Chaul, Portuguese, Goa, Portuguese, Mahe. In this way you can see there are different European settlements in different parts of the country. So the French, now coming to the French. The French East India Company started as a government-owned company in 1664. It was not a private company, it was a company owned by the government. Today you have called public sector units which are run by the government. Same way, they had a company called as the French East India Company, which was owned by the government, started in the year 1664. So they started their factory at Surat, which is in Gujarat. Surat, you may be knowing, it is a famous city for diamonds. Later they established its factories in Machilipatnam, Chandranagar, Mahe, Karaikal, Kasim Bazar, Balasore, different parts which you can see in this particular map. Masulipatam, Nagapatna, here Chandranagore. So in different parts, Pondicherry, these areas, the French established their factories. In the year 1674, the French took Vaikandapuram from a local Muslim official and developed it as a major trade center, a business center, and that center today is called by the name as Puducherry or Pondicherry. So earlier name was Valikandapuram, it was named. It was taken by the French from a local Muslim official. Dupleix, who arrived at Pondicherry as the Governor General of French, had a very high ambition of establishing French as the major power in South India. This Dupleix was a French governor who was a very ambitious person. He wanted to establish the French Empire in South India. So due to this ambition, it led to 3 Carnatic wars with the English. So what is this Carnatic region, Carnatic War? We will discuss. So Carnatic Wars. So here first Carnatic War took place from 1746 to 1748. The second Carnatic War 1749 to 1754. The third Carnatic War between 1756 and 1763. These were the wars fought between English and the French. So Anglo-French War you can call. So 1746 to 1763. So now you should know what is this Carnatic region, where it exists. So this eastern coast of Tamil Nadu, it is called as the Carnatic region or Carnatic region. So don't confuse Karnataka. It is called as the Carnatic region. So here this eastern part of eastern coast of Tamil Nadu. The capital of Carnatic was Arcot. Now, war started, the various reasons made this Carnatic War to take place. There were many causes. The causes for the first Carnatic War, so here there is a connection between Europe and India. So whatever happened there in Europe had an impact in India also. So you can see here in Europe there was in the year 1744, there was a war of succession between Austria and Prussia. Austria, so you can see here Austria and Prussia, today what you call as Germany. Germany was earlier called as Prussia. Don't confuse it with Russia, it is a P, Prussia. Prussia means today's Germany. That point of time it was all broken into pieces. Later on it became a German unification, which we'll be studying in the next classes. In this war the French supported Prussians. So the French who were there supported the Prussians to have control over Austria. And the English supported the Austrians. So Great Britain supported the Austrians. In this way there was a war going on in Europe. And that impact had in India also. So the rivalry between the French and the English was not confined to Europe, it had reached India also. Both were competing with each other So who were those? The English and the French were competing with each other for supremacy in trade and commerce in India. So they wanted to have complete control. So the French and the English were competing that they want superior control in trade in India. Dupleix, the French governor, was a man with ambition who wanted to have supremacy in India and planned to drive away the English from India. So this Dupleix was a very ambitious person. So I will discuss about Dupleix in the coming slides. So the competition between English and French. The Portuguese and the Dutch had withdrawn from India, unable to withstand the competition from French and the English by 18th century. So previous we studied about Portuguese and the Dutch, Holland, which you call that country, and the Portuguese. So but what happened, due to the competition between the French and the English, the power of the Portuguese and the Dutch could not withstand, and the Dutch had to leave the country permanently, and Portuguese confined themselves to Goa. So Goa was only their territory. Finally, French and England resorted to show strength in order to establish their political supremacy over India. Now, there was severe competition between the French and the English to somehow gain control over India. Meanwhile, political volatility arose in the regions of Hyderabad and Carnatic region. So in the meantime, inside India, at the local level, the native rulers, there was internal quarrels. And both the English and the French used this opportunity to take sides with each other and somehow to use this opportunity to become more powerful politically. And this led to the three Carnatic Wars. So let us now discuss how this took place. This is the background of this first Carnatic War. You know that the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, so he was the last powerful ruler. After him there were no any powerful rulers, and the many rulers who came afterwards were very weak. And this led to many subordinate rulers to declare themselves as independent. So because the central government was weak, the Mughal government after the death of Aurangzeb, and many local rulers native who were there subordinate declared themselves as independent, and same way Hyderabad also was declared as independent. Its ruler was Nizam Asaf Jah. Nizam Asaf Jah was Nizam Asaf Jah was the ruler of Nizam of Hyderabad. Nizam is the king. So this Nizam of Hyderabad was controlling the Carnatic region. Carnatic region, as I told you, it is the eastern coast of Tamil Nadu. Arcot is the capital of this particular Carnatic region. So he was supervising this. So Mughals were there. Under the Mughals was the Nizam of Hyderabad, and Nizam of Hyderabad was controlling the Carnatic region. At that point of time, Nawab Dost Ali was the ruler of Carnatic. So this Nawab Dost Ali was killed by the Marathas, and this happened that and his son-in-law, that is Chanda Sahib, that is Dost Ali's son-in-law, was taken as a captive and under arrested by the Marathas and taken to Satara in Maharashtra. So Nawab Ali, who is the ruler of Carnatic, was killed by the Marathas in the war, and his son-in-law Chanda Sahib was arrested and taken to Satara in Maharashtra. In the meantime, Nizam of Hyderabad Asaf Jah appointed Anwaruddin as the nominee of he was the nominee of Dost Ali. So Dost Ali's nominee was Anwaruddin. So now 1741 Marathas killed Carnatic ruler Dost Ali and captured his son-in-law Chanda Sahib and kept him in Satara, Maharashtra. In this situation, the Nizam of Hyderabad, that is Asaf Jah, who was supervising the Carnatic on behalf of the Mughals, sent Anwaruddin to take in charge as the Nawab of Carnatic. So Nawab of Carnatic was Nawab Anwaruddin, who became the Nawab of Carnatic. Now in the year 1748, this Chanda Sahib, who is the son-in-law of Dost Ali, who was the Nawab of Carnatic, was released by the Marathas. Now after this 1741, 7 years, he was released. Now he comes to the scene, and Chanda Sahib comes back to Carnatic and claims to be the Nawab of Carnatic. I am the son-in-law of Dostali, so I am the official ruler of now this Carnatic. But by the time already, as you know, Anwaruddin was nominated as the Nawab. So you can see that Arcot, that is the capital of Carnatic. Arcot is in Tamil Nadu. The governor of the French East India Company was Dupleix, who wanted to establish a French company in India, French colony in India, and have supremacy. And he tried to make a lot of friendship with the native rulers or the Indian rulers. So this is the photo of Dupleix. So he was the Governor General of French regions in the year 1742. He entered into many treaties with the local rulers, because why? He wanted to establish the trade and commerce and have supreme control over India, wanted to drive away the British. So he wanted to make as many friends as possible. So you know, the Hyder Ali was the ruler of Mysore. He also had support. They both, Dupleix and Hyder Ali, supported each other, and they were very good friends. The British considered Dupleix as a formidable challenge, a very great challenge, because he was challenging the British, and he was trying to gain more influence over different parts of the country, particularly South India. And we can notice that there are many clashes between the French and the British to gain supremacy over the Carnatic and the Deccan Plateau. Deccan Plateau means Maharashtra, Karnataka, all this comes under Deccan Plateau. And Dupleix played a very important role in the first Carnatic War, which took place in the year 1746. Now, this situation, as you know, that Dostali and Anwaruddin. Anwaruddin is appointed as the Nawab of Carnatic by the Nizam of Hyderabad, because Chanda Sahib, who is the son-in-law of Dostali, has been arrested by the Marathas. Now, Dupleix promised Nawab Anwaruddin that he would give Madras to the Nawab from the English. At that point of time, the British had built a fort in Madras, and Dupleix, who was a very ambitious person, wanted to have more area, promised Anwaruddin, who was a Nawab of Carnatic, that if you help me, I would give Madras as a gift. In the war, the Dupleix was successful. But as promised by Dupleix that he would give Madras, Dupleix refused to give Madras to Anwaruddin. So this angered Nawab Anwaruddin, and he sent an army to fight against Dupleix, who was the governor of French in India. But the superior French army defeated the armed forces of Anwaruddin, and it is known as the Battle of Adyar, 1746. Adyar is a place in Tamil Nadu. At that place, Adyar, this French defeated the army of Anwaruddin. Dupleix attacked Saint David, Madras. That fort was called at the Saint David, and General Lawrence, who was controlling that area, so British general, couldn't defeat it. He had to run away from that place. So the first Carnatic War, why it took place, what were the reasons for this first Carnatic War? On the request of Dupleix, La Bourdonnais, a French military leader from Mauritius, invaded Madras and captured it. So you can see here this person, Le Bourdonnais, he was a French military leader in Mauritius. You can see here India is here, and Mauritius, one of the islands here. That was also a part of the French colony. And on the request of Dupleix, this La Bourdonnais, who was a French military leader in Mauritius, came and invaded Madras, captured it. This forced the helpless British to request help from Anwaruddin, who was the Nawab of Carnatic. So please support us, the British requested Nawab Anwaruddin. Anwaruddin sent the army, but failed to defeat the French at Madras, because Dupleix and La Bourdonnais were very strong, and the army sent by Anwaruddin could not manage that. But here one thing happened. There was differences between La Bourdonnais, who had come from Mauritius, and Dupleix, who was the French governor. Both though were French, they had their own clashes, differences of opinion, and finally La Bourdonnais took money That is, he took a bribe from the English and returned Madras and went back to Mauritius. He took money from the British, gave back Madras and went away. So why? Because differences between Labordinus and Dupleix aroused difference of opinion. This enraged or angered Dupleix, and he attempted to take Madras but failed. So this made the Dupleix very angry. Now again it went back to the hands of the British. He tried to attack it but could not capture it. Finally, this war came to an end with a treaty of Europe, a treaty in Europe between the France and England called as the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. In the beginning only we discussed, in Europe there was a war between Austria and Prussia, and the one group supported by French, another group supported by English, and there they wanted peace. So they signed a treaty. Here onwards we don't want war, and they signed agreement there. It was called as the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. According to that treaty, both the countries, that is French and the English, accepted to resume the pre-war political situation. What happened before the war? So they considered, okay, we will go, what was situation was there before, we will go according to it. And according to that Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, Louisburg, which is in North America, which was under the control of British, had gone to the French, and it was English gave back. It was a colony. This Louisburg was the colony of the French, and Madras was a colony of the British. Now they had to exchange it. So give back Louisburg to French, and Madras was given back to the British. In this way, because of this Aix-la-Chapelle, this agreement was done. But the rivalry between the French and the British continued till 1754. So now this war came to an end, first Carnatic War, but inside there was always dissatisfaction, and Dupleix, the ambitious Governor General, wanted to expand his territory, but he was not getting full support from the French government. So here in the year another situation was created. In the year 1748, death of Nizam of Hyderabad took place. That is Nizamul Mulk, who was the Nizam of Hyderabad, his death. And now there was a war for succession. Who should be the next Nizam of Hyderabad? And the rivalry was between whom? Between his son and his grandson. His son was Nazir Jang, so Nizam of Hyderabad's son, and his grandson, Nizam of Hyderabad's grandson, Muzaffar Jang, he was the grandson. Now rivalry took place between the son and the grandson of Nizam of Hyderabad, Nizamul Mulk. 1748, Chanda Sahib, already we have discussed, son-in-law of Dostali, Nawab of Carnatic, was released by the Marathas. Now he comes to the scene. Now after the release, he comes and claims that I am the Nawab of Carnatic. And he found that this is a good opportunity where I can take up control over this particular area. So Arcot was the capital of Carnatic. Anwaruddin at that point of time was the Nawab of Arcot. Chanda Sahib, who is the son-in-law of Dostali, wanted to become the Nawab of Arcot. Chanda Sahib supported Muzaffar Jang, and French came to the support of Chanda Sahib for Arcot and Muzaffar Jang for Hyderabad. So don't get confused with these things. I have made a simple thing here. So here you can see that two boxes here. Nizamul Mulk, Nizam of Hyderabad. So here one group supported by English, another group supported by the French. Who are these? Nazir Jang, son of Nizam of Hyderabad. So he was there. So another group, Muzaffar Jang, grandson of Nizam of Hyderabad. Here son supported by the English and the grandson supported by the French. Another was there, Muhammad Ali Khan Waja. He was the son of the deposed. Deposed means who was removed from power, Anwaruddin's son. And they were supported by English, Robert Clive, who was the Governor General of the British. And here supported by the French, supported by Chanda Sahib, and who wanted to become the Nawab of Arcot, and he was supported by Dupleix and if you see this particular box, you need not go through all these details, but so it is easy for you to remember. So here you can see that Dupleix meeting Muzaffar Jang. Muzaffar Jang is the grandson of grandson of the Nawab of Hyderabad, Nizam of Hyderabad. So you can see that the French and the English are taking opposite sides over. So one side French and by Indian rulers, another side the Indian rulers and the British. In this way, they were making, not that they had love towards any Indians, they wanted to gain control over that area. So they were waiting for a good opportunity. Here another thing happened. In the year 1751, this Muzaffar Jung was killed by his own people, because of the internal conflict there, he was killed. Now in the changed circumstances, the French made Salabat Jung, another son of Asaf Jah, the Nizam of Hyderabad, as the Nizam of Hyderabad. So in this way, hope you are able to understand what is going on. A French military officer by named Bussy was stationed in the Carnatic to take in charge and control that area. A French officer by named Bussy, he was kept in charge of this Carnatic region. So that is the eastern coast of Tamil Nadu. Arcot was the capital. Chanda Sahib was the Nawab with the help of the French. Now the French supported Chanda Sahib and he became the Nawab. Initially the French were successful, whatever they did, so they were successful. But in the year 1751, Robert Clive of East India Company attacked Arcot, which was the capital of the Carnatic, and defeated Chanda Sahib, who was now, with the help of the French who was ruling Carnatic, he was defeated. 1751, Robert Clive comes to the scene, attacks Arcot, capital of the Carnatic, defeats Chanda Sahib, and later on Chanda Sahib was imprisoned and killed in this particular war. So now this side, in the place of Chanda Sahib, the English named Muhammad Ali, the son of Anwaruddin, as the Nawab of Carnatic. So Anwaruddin son, the place of Chanda Sahib, as you know that in the first Carnatic War, Chanda Sahib was killed, and in this place the English now gained control over that area. Arcot was controlled by the English, and who are favoring English, that was Muhammad Ali, who was the son of Anwaruddin, who was the Nawab of Carnatic. He became the Nawab of Carnatic region. The second Carnatic War ended with the Treaty of Pondicherry. So now Treaty of Pondicherry was signed in the year 1754, bringing an end to the second Carnatic War. So you know that second Carnatic War, because of the internal rivalry between the Nizam, that sons and grandson of Nizam of Hyderabad. So now it ended with the Treaty of Pondicherry, and it was agreed and signed in the French settlement of Pondicherry in French India. The favored British candidate Muhammad Ali Khan, son of the Anwaruddin Nawab of Carnatic, he was made as the Nawab of Carnatic. Why? Because he was favoring the English. In the year 1754, the French recalled Dupleix as it wanted peace, because the French government thought this Dupleix is very highly ambitious, and if he tries to control more areas in India, then it will have an adverse effect in Europe. So they wanted peace, and they recalled Dupleix, and it is told that Dupleix died as a poor man in France. This war brought laurels or very rich dividends or profit to the English, while the French suffered a political setbacks. So here onwards, French were only confined to Pondicherry, Mahe, Karaikal, these areas, and in this particular war, Second Carnatic, the British gained supremacy, and it was the leadership of Robert Clive. So coming to the last a particular war in this Carnatic, that is the third Carnatic War, 1756 to 1763. So let us now try to understand this third Carnatic War, which took place in the year 1756. So Count de Lele, who was another French officer, military officer, tried to attack this or capture Wandi Wash in the year 1760. Where is this Wandi Wash? So this is in Tamil Nadu. Wandi Wash, also called as Vandavasi. It is also called by the name Vandavasi, Wandi Wash. British called this Wandi Wash. This is here Tamil Nadu. You can see here. This is the coast of eastern coast of Tamil Nadu. So this Wandi Wash this French attempted to besiege Wandi Wash in 1760. In this decisive battle, Sir Eyrecourt, who was the English army general, defeated the French and imprisoned Bussy. Bussy was the French military leader. The French Army General Lally escaped and took shelter in Pondicherry. And finally, Ayerkut attacked Pondicherry, and Lally, who was another French military ruler, this general, had to surrender unconditionally in the year 1761. So, without any conditions, yes, I am going to surrender, 1761. It was because of the efforts of Sir Ayerkut. French had to lose all their bases in India due to the Carnatic Wars. The French lost almost all their regions. In spite of this, as per the Treaty of Paris, there was a treaty in Paris between the French and the English in the year 1763, and according to the treaty, Pondicherry was returned to the French. So there was a peace agreement. So we will not have any war, and we will give back Pondicherry again to the French. This was the agreement. So this is Sir Ayerkut, who was a British soldier and also a member of the British Parliament. He was involved in many wars like Jacobite rebellion, then Second Carnatic War, 7 Years War, Second Anglo-Maratha War, and he died in Chennai. So at the end, later stage of his life, he lived in India. So this was the person who was responsible for the winning of this Third Carnatic War. So you can see here Battle of Vandivash or Vandavasi, this area which is in the eastern coast of Tamil Nadu. So here is the battle going on between the French and the English. Battle of Vandivashi, 22nd January 1760. So in spite of this Treaty of Paris was signed 1763, Pondicherry was returned to the French. With these developments, French lost all their importance in India, and they were confined only to Pondicherry, Karaikal, Mahe, and few other places. So in this way, the English gained supremacy over the whole of South India. At the end of this, the French at that height, they were, you can see here the boundaries of French possessions and boundary of areas more or less subject to the French influence. You can see here in this particular blue color, this color, where grey color, majority of the area were under the control of the influence of the French. And these areas which in the coastal area of Tamil Nadu, eastern coast, they were directly under the control of French possession. So you can see here how they had gained their power. So what was the result of the war? So the war concluded or ended with the treaty of signing the Treaty of Paris 1763. According to the treaty, British returned Chandranagore and Pondicherry to France. So this was the agreement. Secondly, allowed the French to have factories or trading posts where they can have their factories to sell their products in India, but prevented the French traders from administering those areas. So they told no more administration, you cannot have administration in these areas, only you can have trade, business, you can buy and sell the products, but no administrative powers. The French agreed to support British controlled governments in India, so which were under the control of British, who were those native rulers who were under control of the British. The French promised that they would not interfere in the political affairs. Dupleix was recalled back to France and was replaced by Charles Godeau. So now, as I told you, because the French government thought that Dupleix was ambitious and his ambition would make the relationship between France and English very difficult, so he was recalled back to France. And in his place, Charles Godeau was appointed as the Governor General. This ended the French ambition of an Indian empire. As I told you, Dupleix had dreamt of building a huge empire, French empire in India. So with this, the dream of building a French empire in India was came to an end. British became the dominant foreign power in India. So the result of the Carnatic War was end of all other influences of particularly French. As I told you, Portuguese were confined to Goa, French to Pondicherry, Karaikal, Mahe, and the British now gained supremacy over India. So students, so just a recap of whatever we have done today. So 1615, Sir Thomas Roe comes and meets Jahangir for getting the trade license. Establishment of factories in different parts of the country, Agra, Ahmedabad and Bharuch, and they built fort in Madras, Kolkata and Bombay. Then different presidencies were there, that is 3 presidencies. Then this was the area where the British established their power, that is in Calcutta, and it was their first capital. So you can see here the different settlements of the European countries, Dutch, Danish, French, British, Portuguese, you can see here in this particular map. Then French wanted to gain power. Dupleix was a very ambitious governor general. You can see the 3 Carnatic Wars, 1746 to 48, first 1749 to 54, second Carnatic War, 56 to 63. Then the Carnatic region, which is the eastern coast of Tamil Nadu, Arcot was the capital. Reason for the first Carnatic War, the war of succession for Austria. One group Prussia supported by French and Austria supported by English. And India, internal quarrels between different kings within the same family, this one. Then there was severe competition between the English and the French to gain control for trade. Then background of this war was this particular Nizam of Hyderabad and the killing of Dostali, and rivalry between his son-in-law and his nominee, and interference by the French and the English to gain control. So Arcot, you can see here, Tamil Nadu, this particular area. Then Dupleix, ambitious ruler, tried to make friendship with many of the native rulers to gain control. So you can see here Dupleix, his background. Then the rivalry between Anwaruddin and his family. Then the first Carnatic War, the French military officer from Mauritius came and helped Dupleix to capture Madras, but again differences arose, and he took money from English and returned back Madras. So this is the French military leader from Mauritius. Then the war ended with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Then there were different rival groups in the second Carnatic War. As I already told you, one group supported by the English, another group supported by the French. You can see here. Then the Treaty of Pondicherry was signed. Then the third Carnatic War takes place. Sir Ayerkut was responsible for the victory. And Vandy Wash, Battle of Vandy Wash. Vandy Wash is here in near Madras. And the result of the war was the French influence in India came to an end and the English gained supremacy in India. So dear students, so thank you very much for your patient listening. So I have will give you 2 assignment. So one was the capital of French in India was dash. So choose the correct answer: Calcutta, Pondicherry, Madras, Delhi. The first Portuguese governor of India was Robert Clive, Munro, F.D. Almeida, Minto. Third question, list out the reasons for the second Carnatic War. What were the reasons for the second Carnatic War? Thank you. Sai Ram.